Ever find yourself lying awake, maybe thinking, what if my digital life just vanished? Ransomware or something.
All those photos, documents.
Exactly. Or maybe your whole home lab setup. But what if you could build like a digital fortress?
Yeah.
Something ransomware just couldn't touch.
And you could get back online really fast if something did happen.
Yeah, like minutes fast, not days. Well, that's kind of the promise of Airgap Backups.
Right. And it's a hot topic, especially, in places like the Proxmox user community. They're doing some really interesting stuff.
So that's what this deep dive is about, right? How those Proxmox folks are using air gaps.
Exactly. We're going to look at how they're getting creative, aiming for that super fast, super secure recovery. It's a mix of community smarts and backup tech.
And the stakes are just huge now, aren't they? Ransomware headlines are everywhere.
They really are.
So having a backup that's genuinely untouchable, that sounds like, well, the dream, really.
Yeah.
The ultimate digital insurance.
It's a great way to put it.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. What's the basic problem? Why aren't normal backups always, enough?
Well, the biggest weakness, fundamentally, it's about the connection. Think about it.
Good.
Your main server, it has to connect to your backup storage to actually do the backup.
Makes sense.
But there's a quote from a Proxmox user that just nails it. They said, the server with the data connects to storage and stores the backup. If it gets hacked, it can delete the backup too.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
So the main system is compromised.
Then anything it's connected to, like, say, an NFS share where the backups live.
Which is pretty common, right? NFS.
Very common, yeah. Those backups are sitting ducks. An attacker can encrypt them, delete them, whatever. Same access.
Right. It's like having the spare key hidden right under the mat.
Yeah.
Not very secure.
Exactly. So the air gap fundamentally changes that picture.
What's the core idea?
It's about deliberately creating separation, either physical, like literally unplugging something, or logical separation, isolating it from the network.
So remote attacks just can't reach it.
Precisely. Think of it like a one-way street. The backup system pulls the data. The main server isn't allowed to push or critically delete anything on the backup side.
Okay, a one-way data flow, like a drawbridge that's mostly up.
That's a great analogy. It only comes down for that brief moment data needs to cross.
I've also seen people mentioning firewalls in this context. How do they fit in?
Yeah, firewalls can create a really effective logical air gap.
Okay.
So you set up rules that strictly block connections from your main servers to your backup server. It's not quite a physical disconnect, but it's a strong barrier, an extra layer.
Gotcha. Now, when you look at the Proxmox forums, the tool that comes up constantly is Proxmox Backup Server, PBS.
Oh, absolutely. PBS is central to a lot of these strategies.
What makes it so popular for this?
It hits a sweet spot, really. It's fast, and it's really flexible. We're seeing users talk about amazing recovery times.
Like how fast?
Some are saying, 15 minutes for critical VMs. Another person shared restoring about 500 gigs in under half an hour.
Wow. Okay, 30 minutes versus days of rebuilding. That's huge.
It's a game changer, especially when downtime costs money or, major frustration.
So what's under the hood that makes PBS so good for this?
Well, first, it integrates really tightly with Proxmox BE, the virtualization platform itself. That helps a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Then it has features like deduplication, which is smart about only storing unique data blocks. Saves space, speeds things up.
Right, dedupe is key.
And compression, encryption, all built in. But for air gaps, the real magic is its flexibility with different kinds of isolated storage.
Flexibility how? What kind of storage are we talking about?
All sorts, really. You can point PBS at external USB drives, or proper LTO tape systems, or even run a whole second PBS instance that you only connect and sync periodically.
Okay.
Like, one user gave a perfect example. They back up using PBS to a USB drive, and then they just unplug it. Simple as that.
Unplugging the drive. That is the air gap right there.
The physical disconnect, yeah.
And this whole idea connects to something I've seen mentioned, this 32110 strategy. Sounds like a code.
It does a bit, but it's actually a really solid framework for backup resilience. Lots of Proxmox users follow it.
Okay, break it down for us. 32110.
Right. So 3 is 3 copies of your data, your live data plus 2 backups.
Got it.
2 is use 2 different types of media, like maybe NAS storage and USB drives, or disk and tape. Avoid putting all eggs in one basket technology-wise.
Okay, different media. Makes sense.
The first one is keep 1 copy offsite, somewhere geographically separate. Protects against fire, flood, local disasters.
Crucial, offsite.
And the second one, this is key for our chat, means keep 1 copy offline, air-gapped, disconnected.
Oh, there's the Airgap piece, the offline copy.
Exactly, and the 0, that stands for 0 errors, which means you have to test your backups regularly, verify they actually work.
Okay, 3 copies, 2 media, 1 offsite, 1 offline, 0 errors. Test, test, test.
You got it. That offline copy is your ultimate ransomware insurance.
But you mentioned unplugging drives. That sounds manual. And humans, well, we forget things.
You've hit the nail on the head again. That's the automation hurdle.
Right.
Someone experienced pointed this out perfectly. Any part of a backup process that isn't automated will be forgotten at some point. Relying on remembering to plug and unplug, it's risky.
So how are people automating this, making the air gap less reliant on memory?
We're seeing some really clever solutions. Scripting is popular.
Like custom code?
Yeah. People write scripts that maybe automatically mount the USB drive, tell PBS to run the backup, and then critically unmount the drive afterwards. Takes the human out of the loop for that step.
Smart. Any other automated approaches?
Some use Wake on LAN. They have a whole separate PBS server that's normally powered off, completely offline.
Okay.
The script sends a magic packet over the network to wake it up. It pulls the latest backups, syncs, and then automatically shuts down again. So it's only online for the backup window.
That's pretty slick. Keeps it isolated most of the time. I also saw something about email alerts. Seems lower tech.
It is, but it's a practical workaround for some. You basically schedule the backup in PBS, but you don't leave the drive connected.
So the backup fails.
Right. It fails because it can't find the target drive. And you configure PBS to email you an error notification.
So the email is your reminder.
Exactly. It's your prompt. Hey, plug in the backup drive. You plug it in, run the job manually, then unplug it. Not full automation, but better than just trying to remember.
A helpful nudge. Okay, beyond USB drives and basic PDS setups, what other cool air gap solutions are bubbling up in the community?
Oh, there's some real ingenuity out there. One setup I saw used rotating USB drives.
Rotating? How does that work?
They had 3 USB drives. Daily backups went to a NAS, for quick local restores.
Standard practice.
But then once a week, maybe Friday, a script copied the entire NAS backup content to one of the 3 USB drives. They had a strict rotation schedule.
The drive A this week, drive B next week.
Exactly. And one drive was always kept off-site, locked in a fireproof box. Staff swapped them physically every Friday.
That covers offline and offsite.
Totally. And they mentioned doing full restore tests every 6 months. That 0 errors part is crucial. You need that confidence.
Definitely a robust system. What about bigger data loads? I saw mentions of tape backups, LTO. Feels kind of old school.
It might feel that way, but LTO tape is making a serious comeback for good reasons.
Like what?
Well, you can often get used enterprise tape drives and libraries pretty affordably now. They handle massive amounts of data.
Okay, capacity.
And crucially, once you eject that tape cartridge, it is truly physically air-gapped. There's no connection possible.
Yeah, and hack a tape sitting on a shelf.
Exactly. One user described backing up everything, even the PBS server itself, to multiple LTO tape sets. They rotate one set off-site weekly.
Wow.
They figured they could rebuild their entire infrastructure from bare metal in about a day using those tapes. It might be slower to write than disk, but that absolute offline security is gold against ransomware.
That makes sense. But tape drives, libraries, still might be too much for some. Maybe home labs. Are there software approaches? I think I saw something about ZFS and immutable snapshots.
Yes, ZFS immutable snapshots are a really powerful logical separation method.
Logical, meaning not physically disconnected.
Right. So ZFS is a file system. You take regular snapshots, point-in-time copies of your data, then you mark those snapshots as immutable.
Immutable meaning?
Unchangeable. You set a policy, say, this snapshot cannot be deleted or modified for 30 days. Even if an attacker gets full admin rights on the system, they cannot touch that locked snapshot until the time expires.
Whoa, so ZFS itself enforces the lock.
Exactly. It's a built-in file system feature. So while it's not physically offline, it's a very strong logical barrier. Great for home labs or places where tape is overkill. Someone mentioned using it with a NetApp system that even had ransomware analytics built in. Pretty sophisticated.
Creating an unchangeable history. I can see the value there. Okay, we've covered theory, tools, clever setups. Do we have stories from the trenches? Real-world saves.
Oh, definitely. The forums have these success stories. That NetApp user, they reported a 15-minute recovery after some kind of security incident thanks to those immutable snapshots and a high availability setup.
15 minutes. Amazing.
Another one, much simpler setup, basic PBS, external USB drive. They restored 500 gigabytes of critical stuff in under 30 minutes after a server died.
That's the payoff, right? That
But
confidence, that speed.
absolutely. It moves from being a theoretical benefit to, like, tangible relief when things go wrong.
The thrill of victory we mentioned. But surely there are cautionary tales, too. The agony of defeat.
Sadly, yes. Lessons learned the hard way. The most common issue seems to be that automation hurdle again, relying on manual steps.
Forgetting to swap the drive.
Exactly. Forgetting the rotation, forgetting to plug it back in or take it off site. One person shared a near miss where they almost lost a ton of data because the weekly swap got skipped. It just hammers home how vital automation is, or at least very disciplined processes. And again, testing. Regular testing finds those process gaps before disaster does.
Back to the zero errors. Test, automate, verify. Okay, we focused a lot on the Proxmox world because they're so active here. But these ideas, air gaps, offline copies, they apply more broadly, right?
Oh, absolutely. Universal principles. Proxmox just happens to be a great, flexible platform to implement them.
And the threat isn't just for big companies anymore.
Not at all. Cybersecurity reports show ransomware is surging. I think one said like a 73% jump recently. And they're hitting small businesses, even home users, more and more.
So everyone needs to think about this.
Everyone with data they care about, yes. And you see these concepts becoming standard. ZFS snapshots, LTO tapes, even cloud storage with worm features, write once, read many. They're becoming mainstream data protection tools.
So the Proxmox community's experiments are kind of a blueprint others can use.
A really valuable one, yeah. Practical, often cost-effective ideas for serious data protection.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. For you listening, if you're wondering how to build that digital fortress we talked about at the start, what's the main takeaway?
The main takeaway is that strategic air gapping is the path to that kind of security and rapid recovery. It's achievable.
So practical steps.
Explore the tools. Look into Proxmox backup server if you're in that ecosystem. Understand that 32110 rule, especially the one offline part.
Maybe try the USB rotation idea.
Yeah.
Or look into LTO if you have lots of data.
Yeah, experiment, see what fits your needs and budget, or dive into ZFS immutable snapshots for that strong logical separation. There are options.
And the absolutely essential things, no matter the tool.
Automate whatever you possibly can. Minimize that human error factor. And test. Test your restores regularly. That's the only way to guarantee that zero errors and know you can actually recover.
Right, don't just assume it works.
Yeah.
Prove it to yourself.
Exactly.
So as you think about the digital stuff you really value, the question becomes, what proactive steps are you going to take now to build your own untouchable data fortress and make sure that thrill of victory, that successful recovery, is always within reach?